The transmission arrived during third shift when most species preferred sleep over crisis. Yet within moments, every embassy across the Galactic Consortium lit up like binary stars colliding in slow motion. The announcement crawled across holographic displays with bureaucratic coldness that somehow made the cruelty sharper. Maya Chen, daughter of Earth's chief diplomat, age 7, has been detained indefinitely for alleged violations of Consortium security protocols. The Consortium's spokesperson, a crystalline being named Krevath, delivered the statement with the emotional range of a maintenance drone. Behind him, surveillance footage showed a small human child sitting alone in a sterile holding cell, clutching a stuffed rabbit that looked too worn to offer much comfort anymore. The galaxy expected outrage, perhaps threats, certainly the hot-blooded human emotion their entertainment feeds had taught them to anticipate. Instead, something far stranger happened. Earth went completely silent. Alien analysts refreshed their monitoring systems repeatedly, convinced their equipment had malfunctioned. Human diplomatic channels transmitted nothing. Military frequencies sat empty. Even civilian broadcasts from Earth simply continued their normal programming as though nothing had changed. A Zenthari intelligence officer whispered to her superior, "They always scream first, then negotiate. This silence is wrong." Her superior, an older veteran who had studied humans during the formation wars, simply closed his eyes. "No," he said quietly. "This is worse than screaming. This is them deciding." Across diplomatic stations, species who had dealt with humans before began quietly evacuating non-essential personnel. They remembered history that others had forgotten or chosen to ignore. Humans did not rage immediately. Humans calculated. And when humans finished calculating, entire star systems learned new definitions of regret. Earth's response arrived 72 hours later through Ambassador Chen himself. Director Marcus Chen, age 49, father of the imprisoned child, stepped before the Consortium assembly with the kind of composure that made predators nervous. He wore his diplomatic uniform with perfect precision, every metal aligned, every crease sharp enough to cut atmosphere. His expression held no tears, no fury, just a profound stillness that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Good morning," he began, voice steady as planetary orbits. "I want to thank the Consortium for clarifying my daughter's status. Uncertainty is difficult for parents. You have given me certainty." The assembly chamber filled with confused murmurs. A reptilian delegate leaned toward her neighbor. "Is he grateful?" The neighbor, a floating intelligence from the mist realms, rippled uneasily. "I think he just declared war without raising his voice." Marcus continued with impeccable courtesy. "My daughter Maya is 7 years old. She enjoys drawing pictures of nebulae. Her favorite food is strawberry pancakes. She has nightmares about the dark." He paused, letting those details settle into the room like depth charges sinking toward a target. "The Consortium has placed her in isolation. Alone. In the dark." His tone never shifted from professional pleasantness, but somehow the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Krevath attempted to respond. "Your daughter's comfort is not our primary concern. Security protocols must be maintained." Marcus smiled then, a gentle expression that looked almost kind. "Of course," he agreed. "Security is paramount. I completely understand prioritizing protocols over children." His agreement felt like a blade sliding between ribs, precise and surgical. "Earth respects your commitment to procedure. We will respond with equal dedication to our own protocols." The assembly waited for elaboration. Marcus provided none. He simply placed a small object on the speaker's podium, a child's drawing rendered in crayon showing 2 figures holding hands beneath a yellow sun. "Maya drew this for me last year," he said softly. "She wanted me to keep it during negotiations so I would remember what matters." He looked up, eyes meeting Krevath's crystalline gaze. "I am remembering." The drawing remained on the podium as Marcus departed without another word. Delegates stared at the simple artwork as though it were a countdown timer they could not read. One young ambassador reached toward it instinctively, then withdrew her hand as if proximity alone carried consequences. An elder statesman from the Varel collective spoke what others were thinking. Humans weaponize sentiment. That drawing is a declaration. Krivath dismissed such concerns with bureaucratic arrogance. Humans posture. They will negotiate. They always negotiate. But monitoring stations across the consortium began reporting anomalies that suggested otherwise. Human vessels throughout consortium space initiated return voyages to Sol system with synchronized precision. Civilian transports departed stations at staggered intervals that looked random until analysts plotted the patterns and realized every ship was leaving in a sequence that prevented tracking their final destinations. Trade shipments from human worlds simply stopped arriving. Contracts remained technically fulfilled through automated systems, but the human presence that had threaded through consortium commerce for decades began evaporating like morning frost under foreign suns. More concerning were the quiet recalls. Human engineers working on consortium infrastructure projects received messages that brought them home. Human scientists collaborating on research stations filed transfer requests simultaneously. Even human children attending alien academies found their families suddenly relocating for vague personal reasons. Within a week, human presence across consortium space had diminished by 40%. Within 2 weeks, by 70%. The exodus was too coordinated to be panic, too comprehensive to be coincidence. Ambassador Chen appeared again, this time on open galactic channels. He stood in what appeared to be a simple office, a window behind him showing Earth's blue curve against black space. Earth is implementing Project Silent Eclipse, he announced with the same pleasant professionalism. This is a complete withdrawal from consortium affairs until our concerns are adequately addressed. His phrasing was diplomatic, but the implications chilled every analyst listening. Complete withdrawal meant humans would stop participating in consortium trade, research, defense partnerships, and cultural exchanges. For a species as integrated as humanity had become, such withdrawal constituted economic and strategic amputation. Krivath attempted damage control through public statements. Earth is bluffing. They need the consortium more than we need them. But commodity markets disagreed violently. Human agricultural exports vanished, causing food prices to spike across dozens of dependent worlds. Human medical technology became suddenly unavailable, forcing hospitals to ration treatments. Human entertainment, which had dominated cultural spaces for years, went dark, leaving entire industries scrambling. The true scope of Silent Eclipse became apparent when consortium military strategists reviewed their defensive networks. Humans had designed or maintained 47% of critical infrastructure systems. Those systems still functioned, but human contractors who understood their nuances were gone. Attempts to access human-designed security protocols revealed layers of encryption that would take years to bypass. A consortium admiral stared at readouts showing defensive grids operating on automatic mode with no one available to optimize or repair them. "We built our house using their tools," she whispered. "Now they have taken the tools home." Her second officer asked the question no one wanted voiced. What happens when something breaks? The admiral had no answer. Across consortium space, that question repeated in 1,000 variations. What happens when human-designed water purification systems need maintenance? When human-engineered fusion reactors require recalibration? When human-programmed navigation networks encounter anomalies? The consortium had not realized how deeply human expertise had woven into their daily existence until that expertise simply withdrew. Marcus Chen's next appearance addressed these concerns with gentle precision. Some have asked whether Earth's withdrawal will cause harm to consortium civilians. His expression reflected genuine concern. "We have ensured all automated systems will continue functioning safely. Human-designed infrastructure will not fail. It will simply no longer improve." He let that distinction settle. Progress requires participation. We are no longer participating. The statement was not a threat. It was an observation delivered with the clinical detachment of a surgeon, explaining why a patient should have sought treatment earlier. Consortium economists projected the long-term consequences and presented findings that caused panic in financial sectors. Without human innovation, Technological advancement across multiple fields would slow by estimated 70%. Without human trade networks, regional economies would destabilize within months. Without human cultural content, entire entertainment industries would collapse, leading to social unrest. One economic minister summarized the situation with brutal honesty. "We are not facing immediate catastrophe. We are facing slow, inevitable decline." Humanity was not the consortium's foundation, but they were the mortar between our bricks. Without them, we will not collapse quickly. We will crumble gradually. Kriveth insisted negotiations could resolve everything. He demanded Earth send representatives to discuss terms. Marcus Chen responded with polite refusal. "Earth has nothing to negotiate until Maya Chen is returned home safely. Our position is simple: return our child, resume our friendship, or continue without us." His tone carried no anger, no desperation, just patient finality. The consortium convened emergency sessions. Factions divided along predictable lines. Some argued for releasing the child immediately to restore stability. Others insisted yielding to human pressure would set dangerous precedents. Krevath led the latter faction with rigid determination. "If we capitulate to emotional blackmail, every species will threaten withdrawal whenever they dislike our decisions. We must remain firm." But firmness required leverage the consortium was discovering it lacked. Military pressure was unthinkable. Humanity's defensive capabilities remained enigmatic, and their withdrawal had revealed just how much consortium security depended on human-designed systems. Economic sanctions were pointless against a species that had already voluntarily severed economic ties. Cultural or diplomatic isolation meant nothing to humans who had chosen isolation themselves. The consortium's power had always rested on being essential. Humanity had quietly made themselves equally essential, then demonstrated they could survive separation better than their partners could. A Mist-Realm philosopher noted the irony during a broadcast interview. "We thought we were the center holding the galaxy together. Humans showed us we were planets orbiting their sun. We never noticed because they let us believe otherwise. Now the sun has withdrawn, and we are learning what cold truly means." Ambassador Chen's broadcasts continued with regular precision, each one pleasant and informative. He provided updates on Earth status, discussed human cultural events, shared scientific discoveries humanity was pursuing independently. The broadcasts were not propaganda or posturing. They were proof of life, evidence that humanity was not suffering from isolation, but adapting to it comfortably. Each broadcast included a brief moment where Marcus would pause and add, "Maya loves astronomy. She would have enjoyed today's solar observation data." These personal notes, delivered without drama or appeal, somehow struck harder than any emotional plea could have. They reminded the galaxy that behind the strategic withdrawal was a father waiting for his daughter. Monitoring stations detected increased human activity in deep space regions beyond consortium borders. Construction signatures appeared around uninhabited star systems. Energy readings suggested massive infrastructure development. Humans were not merely withdrawing. They were building something new in the spaces between established territories. Consortium scouts attempted to investigate these activities and found themselves politely but firmly redirected by human patrol vessels. "We are conducting private development in unclaimed space," human captains explained with flawless courtesy. "Consortium observers are not welcome at this time. Please respect our privacy as we have respected your sovereignty." The language was diplomatic, but the implication was clear. Humanity was preparing alternatives to consortium partnership. They were ensuring that even if silent Eclipse became permanent, human civilization would continue advancing independently. A Zenthari strategic analyst presented her assessment to consortium leadership with trembling hands. "Humanity is not threatening us with violence. They are threatening us with irrelevance. They are showing the galaxy that they do not need us. If other species begin to question whether they need the consortium either, our entire structure collapses." Her superior asked what options remained. She had only one answer: give them back their child. Krevith resisted for another 3 weeks, insisting principle mattered more than convenience. But convenience was becoming survival. Agricultural worlds rioted over food shortages. Medical centers faced ethical crises rationing care. Defense stations operated with skeleton crews unable to maintain complex systems. The Consortium was not collapsing in dramatic fashion. It was slowly suffocating under the weight of dependencies it had never acknowledged. Finally, economic ministers, military commanders, and regional governors united in a coalition demanding resolution. They appeared before Consortium leadership with unanimous declaration. Release the human child, or explain to our populations why pride matters more than stability. Krevith attempted one final justification. The child's detention was legally justified under security protocols. The coalition leader, an elder Vrel statesman, responded with exhausted patience. Legal justification is worthless if it destroys what we are trying to protect. We built laws to serve society, not sacrifice society to serve laws. The vote was overwhelming. Maya Chen would be released immediately with full apologies. Krevith, removed from his position, departed in disgrace while others scrambled to repair what his arrogance had broken. Ambassador Marcus Chen received notification of his daughter's release while recording his daily broadcast. He paused mid-sentence, listening to the message, and for the first time in weeks, his carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. His eyes closed briefly, and when they opened again, they glistened with tears he did not bother hiding. "Thank you," he said quietly to the camera, to the galaxy, to everyone who had watched this slow-motion crisis unfold. "You have made the right choice." His relief was genuine, his gratitude sincere, but his next words carried weight that prevented celebration. Project Silent Eclipse will not end immediately. Trust, once broken, requires time to rebuild. Earth will resume limited engagement while we assess whether this change reflects temporary convenience or genuine commitment to mutual respect. The Consortium had expected instant restoration of previous relationships. Instead, they received probationary partnership. Human engineers returned slowly, accepting only essential contracts. Human traders resumed commerce but maintained strict limitations on dependency. Human cultural content began flowing again, but with clear reminders that access was privilege, not entitlement. Maya Chen returned to Earth in a Consortium vessel escorted by ships from a dozen species, each offering formal apologies and gifts meant to demonstrate sincerity. The child, resilient despite her ordeal, waved at cameras with innocent friendliness that made the entire crisis feel even more shameful in retrospect. Marcus Chen met his daughter at the arrival platform, scooping her into an embrace that was broadcast across every channel. The image of a father reunited with his child became the defining moment of the crisis, a reminder of what had been at stake beneath all the strategic maneuvering. In the weeks following Maya's return, analysts examined what became known as the Silent Eclipse crisis. Humanity had achieved strategic victory without firing a single shot, without issuing ultimatums, without even raising their voices beyond professional firmness. They had simply demonstrated value, then withdrawn it. The lesson resonated across the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as emotional or impulsive gained new respect for their capacity for disciplined patience. The Consortium implemented reforms designed to prevent similar crises, including oversight committees, appeal processes, and strict limitations on detaining diplomats' families. But the deeper impact was cultural. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not military might or economic power. It was the quiet confidence to walk away from partnerships that no longer served mutual benefit. They did not need to threaten. They simply needed to demonstrate they would survive and thrive without those who took them for granted. Ambassador Chen's final broadcast on the subject addressed the galaxy with the same gentle professionalism that had characterized his entire approach. "Earth values partnership built on respect," he said. "We withdrew, not to punish, but to protect our dignity while demonstrating our worth. We return now with hope that this crisis has taught all of us, humanity included, the importance of recognizing what we mean to each other." Before absence makes that recognition painful. His words carried no bitterness, no triumph, just mature acknowledgement that relationships require maintenance. The silent eclipse installations humanity had built in deep space remained operational, quiet monuments to human capacity for independent survival. They served as research stations, trade hubs, and cultural centers operating outside Consortium jurisdiction. Occasionally, alien vessels would pass these installations and wonder what humanity might have built if the Consortium had never apologized, if silent eclipse had become permanent rather than temporary. Marcus Chen retired from diplomatic service a year later, choosing to spend time with Maya while she recovered from her ordeal. His final speech to the Consortium Assembly was brief and personal. "My daughter taught me something during this crisis," he said. "She asked me why the aliens took her, and I explained about rules and fear and misunderstanding. She thought for a moment, then said, maybe they forgot that rules are supposed to help people, not hurt them." He smiled gently. 7-year-old wisdom. Perhaps we should all remember it. The assembly gave him a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. Krivath, watching from forced retirement, finally understood what he had failed to grasp during the crisis. Humans did not need grand gestures or elaborate strategies. They simply needed to remind others that beneath all political structures were people who mattered, children who drew pictures, fathers who loved them. That reminder, delivered with patience and dignity, had reshaped galactic politics more effectively than any war ever could. Years later, Maya Chen herself would enter diplomatic service, following her father's path. When asked during her first assembly speech about the crisis that had defined her childhood, she smiled with the same gentle strength her father had demonstrated. "I learned that sometimes the bravest thing is not fighting back immediately. Sometimes it is stepping away with dignity until others recognize your worth." Her words became a guiding principle for a new generation of diplomats across multiple species. The silent eclipse crisis had ended not with dramatic climax, but with quiet restoration. Yet its impact rippled through decades of galactic relations, a reminder that humanity's true strength was never aggression, but the disciplined patience to demonstrate value, then withdraw it, then offer partnership again to those wise enough to appreciate the gift. Earth had initiated Project Silent Eclipse not as punishment, but as education, and the galaxy, humbled by what humbled, absence revealed, had learned its lesson well.